Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar, Understanding Security Frameworks. Thank you for joining us. My name is Mignon Wagner, and I'm excited to dive into all things macOS security compliance today, covering strategies for success and compliance benchmarks. Before we jump into the content of the session, let me give you an overview of what we'll be covering today. To kick off, we'll run through a high-level introduction of cybersecurity frameworks, their benefits, and their usage. We'll then explore compliance best practices for managing your Mac fleet, how Jamf can simplify compliance, and finally finish up with a look at our compliance features in Jamf Pro, the gold standard for Apple device management. There will be a brief recap before we open it up to Q&A, and so with that, let's get going. So let's take a look at what a cybersecurity framework even is, what their benefits are, and different usages in organizations. First, we'll want to define what a security framework is by answering some simple questions. So, what is it? Well, as defined by secureframe.com, a security framework defines policies and procedures for establishing and maintaining security controls. These frameworks clarify processes that are used to protect an organization from cybersecurity risks, and they help IT security professionals keep their organization compliant and insulated from cybersecurity threats. But not all security frameworks are alike. They can actually be classified into 4 different categories. First, we've got control frameworks, then program frameworks, risk frameworks, and lastly, compliance frameworks. So let's dive into these a little bit more. Starting off with control frameworks. Control frameworks include a complete set of network and workstation controls. So these really are used to create a security team with a basic strategy, to identify a baseline set of controls, perform any analysis of gaps, and prioritize control implementations. An example of a control framework is the NIST 800-53B. It's a comprehensive framework that includes controls that focus on 4 baselines: low impact, moderate impact, high impact, and privacy control. Organizations can easily apply the proper controls based on system confidentiality and criticality. Another example of a control framework organizations can choose is the Center for Internet Security, CIS, 18 critical controls. This is a collection of safeguards that are critical for protecting any organization. Organizations of any size must implement these controls in some way, and it's often a stopgap until a more comprehensive control network is selected and implemented. This framework, however, may be sufficient for many small businesses, and there is no cost for either this framework or the NIST framework, which makes it a good cost-effective option for organizations, but it may not be enough. So let's have a look at program frameworks. A program framework is at a higher level than a control framework, and it helps us set up and manage an overall security program. Program frameworks help organizations perform a security program audit, whether that's internal or external, build a security program that's appropriate for the organization and associated compliance requirements, create metrics for checking for expected outcomes, and create streamlined communication channels between the security team and the management team. And this is very critical for full engagement with data and system owners, that there is no gap between security and management teams. ISO 27001 is part of the set of International 27000 series frameworks and best practices. It guides what is required to develop an overall organization security program, and so it includes policies, procedures, and processes for governance to ensure effective security outcomes. The NIST cybersecurity framework is a top-rated solution across multiple industries, and like the ISO 27001, it guides an organization as it defines and works towards information security objectives. However, the ISO 27001 is available for a cost, whereas the CSF is free. So that's important to note. Managing security also means managing risk. And so understanding risk enables organizations to really prioritize control implementations and risk frameworks to help establish policies and guidelines and procedures to assess and to manage that risk. And so a risk framework really helps in creating a risk management program, defining that risk assessment and the different management steps that are required, and then assessing risk and prioritizing the security activities that are appropriate to respond. Risk assessments help prioritize framework implementation tasks based on something called threat modeling through existing controls and with target value. Then the NIST SP 800-30 is a free and comprehensive risk framework, whereas the ISO 27005 is part of the same series as the ISO 27001 that I spoke about, and is also a popular paid framework among many organizations. Finally, let's take a look at compliance frameworks. So industries and governments, of course, continue to provide standards and guidelines that mandate standards for the protection of things like personal privacy, financial privacy, critical infrastructure, and stakeholder transparency. These framework categories make it very clear that frameworks are not just about implementing the right safeguards, but they also include building overall risk management and information security programs. So selecting the right set of frameworks is a process, a very important process. So let's take a look at some examples to really illustrate that. There are three popular compliance frameworks that organizations use to ensure that they meet those certain security and regulatory standards. And while all three frameworks aim to provide an organization's security posture, they do differ in their approach and their focus. The first one is the Center for Internet Security, also known as CIS, controls, which we covered. And these are a set of guidelines designed to help organizations secure their networks and their systems. They focus on practical, actionable steps that organizations can take to mitigate common cyber threats. The CIS controls are prioritized, meaning that they can provide a roadmap for organizations to improve their security posture based on the most pressing risks. So for someone who's only getting started or an organization that has only started looking at compliance, there is a prioritized order which they can follow. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, cybersecurity framework is a comprehensive guide to managing cybersecurity risk. The framework is based off of 5 core functions: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. The NIST framework emphasizes the importance of risk assessment and management, as well as continuous monitoring and improvement. The International Organization for Standardization, ISO 27001, is the standard for information security management systems. It provides a systematic approach to managing sensitive company information so that it remains secure. This standard covers a wide range of security controls, including physical security, access control, and incident management. In summary, the CIS controls provide a practical, prioritized approach to securing networks and systems, while the NIST cybersecurity framework focuses on risk management and continuous improvement. ISO 27001, on the other hand, is a comprehensive standard for managing information security. Organizations may choose to adapt one or more of these frameworks depending on their specific goals. So it's not a choice of one or the other. It's really a matter of which combination of these provides the best approach for your devices, your use cases, your industry, and so on. Because, of course, many regulated industries will also be required to implement additional security benchmarks. Sometimes standards are mandatory, as with the HIPAA compliance benchmark and the PCI DSS. In other cases, the selection of a standard is based on the unique operating environment of an organization that the industry belongs to. And on top of those, many regulated industries will also be required to implement a security benchmark. For example, a healthcare organization may be subject to requirements under HIPAA, and a retail or e-commerce company may have systems subject to PCI because they process credit card transactions, for example. Schools and colleges need to apply protections for ensuring privacy of the student and their educational records, and this falls under the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, otherwise known as FERPA. So depending on the industry, you can see there really are many different regulations to navigate. Besides the monetary fines and sanctions, what are the benefits of following one of these security frameworks? First of all, we want to make sure that we protect your company reputation. Security measures ensure that your company is taking all the necessary steps to protect sensitive information. Because if something like customer data is leaked, or unauthorized access to your company data, or even theft occurs, this really disrupts the trust with your customers and your stakeholders. And so to protect your company's reputation, you want to make sure that all of these security controls are in place. Next, mitigating security risks. So frameworks provide guidelines for identifying and mitigating security risks. And only by implementing these measures, you can reduce the likelihood of a breach. And this breach can, of course, result in costly downtime, data loss, and even damage your brand. Another important point is enhancing customer confidence. When customers know that your company is compliant with all of these security regulations, they're more likely to trust your brand and feel confident in doing business with you. And this can result in increased customer loyalty, repeat business, and just generally customer growth. Another great benefit is, of course, improving operational efficiency. It's a buzzword that is being used a lot, but it's being used a lot for a reason. It's important because once we implement these security frameworks and these processes, it can improve your overall company operational efficiency. It's not just a matter of the security team or the IT team, but by complying with industry-specific security standards, you could, for example, implement better data management processes, which then further down the line helps streamline your operations and just generally improves productivity. And there's also a competitive edge. So compliance with security frameworks can give your company an edge over other businesses in your industry. As I mentioned, a customer may choose you over others because they trust you more, because they know that you're taking all the security precautions. And by demonstrating your commitment to security, you can then differentiate yourself from these competitors and attract new customers to whom security and privacy is important. So whether a business is just starting out on a security journey, or you're looking to improve the policies and the procedures you already have in place, investing in security is a long-term business decision and an ongoing one. With security becoming an ever-growing focus for customers and end users, cybersecurity frameworks can help simplify and transform an organization and really set them up for success. Smaller organizations, for example, can usually get by with a single, carefully selected framework, but a larger organization might need multiple frameworks to manage information resources in a way that's comprehensive enough. This is a careful process that should not be based entirely on recommendations by experts. The selection must depend on due diligence that is focused on a deep understanding of your organization's needs and how you can best achieve reasonable and appropriate governance, as well as risk management and compliance. So it's not a matter of just following guidelines, but it's really about taking a step back, looking at your industry requirements, your devices, your data, your device use cases, and what your users do and how they interact with your data and your devices, that then determines which frameworks you should follow and what you should prioritize. And so an organization's unique operating environment and their compliance needs and their system and data sensitivity all play an important part in what set of frameworks is needed. With the different types of security frameworks and their use cases in mind, let's take a look at how you can apply those frameworks to achieve compliance best practices, especially when it comes to managing your Mac fleet. A security baseline is essentially a group of controls that an organization has agreed to configure their devices. Once these are in place, they need to continuously verify that these controls remain in place and that the devices remain compliant. It's not enough to have a check-in every now and then. It really needs to be a continuous process to be able to catch anything unusual as it occurs. This compliance scoring system is called the security benchmark. So for example, an organization would want to establish the following control set. These are just examples. The organization could set that all Macs must be encrypted with File Vault. All Macs must turn the screensaver on no more than 5 minutes after the last user interaction, and authentication will be required to wake from the screensaver. They could also add something like all Macs must disable the Bluetooth sharing option. So these are some great examples of what people enable to strengthen their compliance. It sounds simple enough, but it also sounds like a lot of work, especially if you have a large number of devices and a large number of users that are spread all over the world. And so this is where tools can really help reliably implement that benchmark so that the organization's IT admin and IT team in general can configure settings as part of their automated enrollment workflow and add a configuration profile to enforce those required settings. To eliminate any user interference or where profiles are not available, they can also use these compliance scripts to ensure that features such as Bluetooth sharing are indeed disabled, and there is no option for the user to get around that. To help ensure compliance is continuously monitored, there are extension attributes to prove insight to quickly ensure that their devices are compliant. And all of this really is possible with MDM, with a mobile device management solution. Jamf Pro, for example, purposely is built for Apple, and it uses the built-in Apple management framework in iOS, iPadOS, and macOS, as well as tvOS, to manage features and settings for each of those platforms. And so the framework ensures that MDM users can implement important management features consistently and securely, including the following things: implementing device management itself, configuring devices and users, maintaining communication with managed devices. So you will see a lot of this sounds familiar from the requirements, the compliance requirements that we just spoke about. So whether you're an enterprise organization or you're a school or a hospital, device management allows you to manage and enforce those security policies, those access controls to company data, and to even remotely wipe devices in the case of theft or loss. But you should ensure that you select the most comprehensive solution for your Apple devices. You should select a partner that is known for same-day support, which means that when a software update drops, you know that the tool that you chose can support these updates from day one, because otherwise that just exposes you to a security gap. Which brings me very nicely to software updates. It's best practice to ensure that you keep device operating systems up to date. I think that is very widely known. And this really is relevant for not just macOS, but all devices that are being used for work. So iOS, iPadOS, and tvOS as well. When that's not possible, you also need to be able to have visibility of those devices at least, and to implement policies that can defer or force the update depending on your situation and your needs. Whatever your route is, it's really about making sure that you have visibility over your compliance. Regularly updating the operating system, apps, and software on all devices ensures that they have the latest security patches and bug fixes. So MDM allows you to set up automatic updates on macOS and mobile devices to make this process a lot easier. And this really is amazing because at Jamf we talk about manage and secure Apple a lot, but really device management is in itself security. And this is a fantastic example for that. So let's have a look at implement encryption. Encryption is a critical security measure for protecting sensitive data on both macOS and mobile devices. You need to make sure to enable full disk encryption on all devices and require strong passcodes or ideally biometric authentication. So you can use File Vault to encrypt the information on your Mac. This encodes the data on your startup disk so that unauthorized users cannot gain access to your information. And you can make sure that you have strong passwords or passcodes depending on the device, which are regular set to change. For example, every 30 days. That is a very standard time frame. Also, you can make use of biometrics to harden the security of your devices. This is very popular. We've spoken about the importance of mobile device management, but today endpoint security solutions are also very critical tools for enforcing compliance policies on macOS and mobile devices. MDM and endpoint security go hand in hand, and these technologies really help organizations ensure that their employees' devices are secure, that they're up to date, and in compliance with any relevant regulations that apply to you. MDM solutions provide a centralized way to manage all secured devices connected to an organization's network, whether that's macOS or mobile devices, and it allows IT admins to remotely configure and manage devices, to enforce security policies, and to deploy software updates when they want. For example, an MDM solution can enforce policies such as requiring devices to have a passcode, to encrypt data, and to disable certain features that could be a security risk. Additionally, MDM solutions can provide visibility into how the device is used, which allows admins to monitor compliance with policies and detect potential security issues before they arise. Endpoint security solutions add an additional layer of protection to macOS. These solutions use advanced threat detection and prevention techniques to safeguard devices against things like malware, phishing attacks, and other cyber threats. For example, endpoint security solutions can use machine learning algorithms to identify and block malicious activity, to monitor device behavior for anomalies, and to block access to known malicious websites. Some solutions can even provide real-time alerts and automated response actions to help IT teams quickly respond to those security incidents. And so together, MDM and endpoint security solutions really provide a comprehensive protection, especially when they were specifically designed for the Apple ecosystem, which makes the process of enforcing compliance policies and keeping data and networks secure so much easier. And it provides you with more effective results, often because these purpose-built solutions offer same-day support, which we spoke about earlier, and they simply offer a great experience both for the admin and for the end user, being built on a native framework. And so all in all, by combining the power of MDM and endpoint security, organizations can reduce the risk of data breaches, minimize downtime due to security incidents, and maintain compliance with all relevant regulations. Some organizations may not need the highest security level that's possible, but may still want to achieve that custom level of security that they can track and enforce and that they know really covers all bases. So let's take a look at some tools to help. We're going to start off with the macOS Security Compliance Project. This aims to ensure that Apple's operating system, macOS, is secure and compliant with various security standards and regulations. This project involves several key components, including security controls, configurations, and monitoring. It involves implementing various security controls to protect against different types of threats. So these controls may include firewalls, antivirus software, intrusion detection and prevention system, as well as access controls. So really covering a very wide range there. And each control is designed to address a specific security risk and reduce the likelihood of a security incident occurring. Configurations refer to the settings and options that are configured within the macOS operating system. The macOS Security Compliance Project involves configuring these settings to ensure that the system is secure and compliant with these industry standards and regulations. And so this may include things like configuring passwords and passcodes, encryption, network settings, and other security-related options. Monitoring is a critical component of the macOS Security Compliance Project. It involves the continuous monitoring of the system for security events, such as, for example, attempted attacks or unauthorized access. Monitoring may involve the use of security information and event management systems, log analysis tools, and other monitoring technologies. And so overall, the key components of the macOS Security Compliance Project are designed to ensure that the operating system is secure and that it's compliant with all the various security standards and regulations that are relevant. By implementing these security controls, configuring these settings, monitoring the systems, organizations can reduce the likelihood of security incidents happening and ensure that they're meeting all security obligations as well. This project is an open source initiative that's designed to help generate security guidance in a programmatic way. Its configuration settings are based on the NIST Special Publication 800-53, which outlines security and privacy controls for information systems and organizations. It's a collaborative effort between IT security teams from several federal agencies, which you can see listed out on the slide, including NIST, NASA, DISA, and Los Alamos National Laboratory. If you head over to the Apple website, you will see that Apple acknowledges this project and provides key information on their Security Certifications and Compliance Center webpage. Knowing all this, let's take a look at the Jamf Compliance Editor app, which was built to make this complicated process very easy for you. The Jamf Compliance Editor is a tool that provides macOS system administrators with an easy way to establish and manage compliance benchmarks on all macOS devices in their fleet. The tool was built on the foundations of the macOS Security Compliance Project, and you'll be able to see why. It has easily selectable benchmarks or baselines for customization. It offers support for all variations of benchmarks or baselines currently offered by the macOS Security Compliance Project, as well as support for multiple major macOS versions. In addition, modification of organization-defined values, ODVs, from the core compliance project specifications are possible. It offers local storage of your custom benchmarks for editing at a later point. It has an easy-to-use UI that eliminates the need for complicated scripting. One-click guidance creation that includes PDF, Excel, HTML, and ad hoc for audit review with the option to add branding if you want. Shell script that can audit and remediate endpoint. All configuration profiles needed to be uploaded to an MDM server. And Jamf Pro extension attributes that will submit the status of the benchmark or the baseline of macOS endpoints. So really a very comprehensive solution. Many compliance standards are fairly prescriptive in providing guidance, but our goal at Jamf was really to provide complete compliance that organizations of all sizes could implement so they can achieve faster onboarding, application-specific policy enforcement, and ultimately a simple, streamlined user experience that is consistent for everyone, whether that is employees, contractors, or even third parties. So let's take a look at how Jamf helps you approach this with compliance benchmarks, which is available directly in our device management solution, Jamf Pro. Compliance benchmarks for Jamf Pro is based on the macOS Security Compliance Project, which is also known as the MSCP for short. And that refers to a set of standardized security configurations and best practices that is designed to ensure that macOS systems meet regulations, so both industry and regulatory compliance requirements, which we just covered. And so as I move through these slides, you will see how easy it is to configure these benchmarks that were set by the MSCP to then either only monitor or monitor and enforce them. As we discussed, the project really provides very specific benchmarks for configuring these macOS endpoints so that they are in alignment with the security policies and the frameworks such as NIST, CIS, HIPAA, and so on. And these benchmarks help organizations evaluate these security settings, the system controls, and the policies so that everything is secure and compliant and resilient against cyber threats. And so in short, security IT teams rely on these benchmarks to assess and to validate macOS configurations to ensure that they meet or exceed necessary security standards. And compliance benchmarks for Jamf Pro does exactly that. So it's an automated tool that integrates MSCP benchmarks to help organizations continuously monitor these configurations. They can also generate compliance reports They can identify non-compliant systems and ensure that they're prepared for any audits, for any compliance audits. So really, it's a proactive approach that goes beyond just having visibility of devices, and that allows for better risk management, for a more streamlined compliance process, and for enhanced security governance. Compliance Benchmarks does so by helping teams explore or roll out these security standards on the Mac devices. So you can simply select which benchmark you would like to follow, and then you're guided through the steps in a very intuitive way to enforce those benchmarks on your macOS devices. We've collected plenty of feedback from our customers that are using this, and we really see them benefit from a few key things and really achieve a few key goals. First one is pretty self-explanatory that we've covered. If they have to adhere to any industry-specific security standards or even just the standard CIS benchmarks, then they can absolutely do that. And all of the individual benchmarks, all the individual requirements are outlined. Secondly, it also helps to streamline compliance audits. So it automates the assessment of macOS configurations against the benchmarks, which then enables continuous monitoring, very quick identification of any non-compliant systems, and this ensures really readiness for any audits or regulatory reviews that you have, whether those are internal or external. It also mitigates security risks. So by adhering to the benchmarks, that proactively identify these vulnerabilities and to configure the endpoints with robust security controls, you are effectively reducing the risk of a cyber threat affecting your devices, affecting your systems, and potentially leading to any data breaches. Lastly, and this one I'm sure you'll be very happy to hear, it also simplifies the ongoing compliance management and saves a ton of time. By using an automated tool that continuously enforces and validates these benchmarks, this saves you a lot of time and effort that is otherwise spent on trying to do this manually across your entire fleet. Automated tools also have the great benefit that they're not subject to any human error, so you can be more confident that you are in fact covering your entire device fleet and that you are achieving complete compliance in line with the benchmark that you chose, of course. Another great tool directly available in Jamf Pro that assists with compliance is Blueprints. So Blueprints is an Apple-first solution that is powered by Declarative Device Management, DDM, that is designed to give more responsive device management experiences through simplified device configurations, as well as accelerated compliance. So whether you use a predefined template or you customize your own, Blueprints really allow you to enforce policies faster, which then ultimately protects sensitive data and helps maintain those Apple best practices. And it does all that in a very simple, scalable way. So really, it's both security and simplification all in one, which does not often go hand in hand. So that's great. Here, for example, we're configuring Apple built-in services on devices, choosing the scope, and then applying that configuration to this user group, in this case, the sales team. The initial release of Jamf Pro Blueprints will include 5 DDM workflows, so 5 declarative device management workflows that specifically help you with macOS compliance. So first of all, and we covered this briefly earlier, passcode policy settings. The admin can configure and enforce the passcode being required, and that ensures faster compliance with those security standards. Fairly straightforward. You just enforce a password. Then external and network disk management settings. This really offers enhanced security and compliance with a more granular data control, which helps admins prevent data loss and manage access to sensitive information. So really you're making sure that all devices, all enrolled devices, can only be accessed by verified users, and that only these can access company information. So adhering to Apple's best practices and certainly to ours as well. Then we have Safari extensions management settings. So this allows admins to control how and which Safari extensions are used to protect users from online cyber threats when they are on their company managed devices. It also offers service configuration file settings. So this really helps teams maintain compliance by restricting an end user's ability to change and access common system services, as well as settings. So you're kind of taking the control away from them. And lastly, background task management. This provides an easy and streamlined way for organizations to deploy and control which background tasks are allowed to run on the device. So this offers added security by ensuring that only trusted and approved tasks are active, and it really protects the system from any potential threats and vulnerabilities. Let's round out with some practical tips for what modern compliance looks like on the Mac platform. As discussed in this section, organizations are really continuing to embrace Apple and embrace Apple at scale. And so it's important to understand how compliance is built into the Apple ecosystem already and how we can leverage that and really how we can go beyond the traditional checklists. So here are 5 key takeaways. First, compliance is continuous. It's not a one-time thing. It's not just about the setup. It's really an ongoing process of enforcing and verifying again to make sure that all configurations are set and enforced. Use declarative management where possible. Apple's declarative device management allows policies to be self-enforced by the device, and that reduces reliance on reactive MDM commands. Leverage endpoint security framework for deep visibility. Integrating with Apple's endpoint security API, such as Jamf's endpoint security, provides granular insights into system events for real-time compliance and threat detection, a very important aspect of compliance overall. Ensure cryptographic verification with signed configuration profiles. These guarantee authenticity and integrity of device settings, which are essential for regulated environments. And lastly, monitor and respond to drift with tools like Jamf. Devices may drift from their intended state, and tools like Jamf Pro or device management allows IT to audit, detect, and remediate any deviations to maintain compliance. That is a recap of what we have covered today. We started with different types of security frameworks. We looked at compliance best practices, including device management and endpoint protection, gave guidance on how to simplify compliance with Jamf and with the tools available in Jamf device management, and gave some tips for a practical approach to compliance in your organization as well. That's it for this session. I hope you found it insightful and you learned some useful information that can help you with choosing a security framework that fits your organization and choosing the right tools to do that for you. And I wish you a pleasant day.